Georgia is now this kind of a front line, a segment of the global front line when the totalitarian regimes try to turn country into a kind of proxy authoritarian place. We don't want it. We want to become a part of the European Union. We want to become a part of the democratic Western type of nations. And this is our last chance to fight and to win.
Now, the news channels are carrying live picture feeds of a big demonstration outside the parliament building in Georgia, the Tbilisi capital. They're protesting about the results of this weekend's elections. The president of Georgia has addressed the crowd, repeating the results of the election were false and claiming European leaders have suggested they won't recognize the victory of the incumbent government. So the Prime Minister, Irakli Korbakhidze, dismissed claims of electoral fraud in an interview with the BBC yesterday.
They say it in each and every case. They said it in 2016, they said it in 2020, they said it in 2021. Of course, they have now no other way, so they have to tell to their supporters that either they were lying or the government rigged the elections.
Well, let's talk now to Dr. Shalva Dzebisashvili, the Professor of Political Science at the University of Georgia in Tbilisi. Hello to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
You're welcome. What is it like in Tbilisi right now? I've seen pictures of a big gathering on the streets. Does this feel like a crisis to you?
This is definitely a beginning of the big political crisis in Georgia, which was already ripe enough, during the last month before the elections. But now we have the culmination of that. And it's going now certainly we have very tense period ahead of us. It will be days and weeks, and I assume even months, because there is no political solution for the moment. The elections results are there, but as it seems, the election results are massively and systematically rigged. And the political opposition is not going to recognize the results and is pushing for nullifying the results and organizing a new election.
Right. So I've seen the pictures of the crowds of protesters on the streets. The shots that I've seen do seem to be peaceful. Will it go on like that, though? Will these be peaceful protests? I know some of those who are strongly opposed to the results of the election are calling for them to stay peaceful, but will they?
Okay, that's a great question, because it first of all, it depends on the ability of the ruling party, Georgian Dream, to recognize that there were serious problems with conducting elections. Secondly, it will be dependent on the ability of the Georgian Dream to negotiate with the political opposition and then come to terms with the political opposition. And third is the ability of the political opposition to remain united, coherent, and push for a clear political solution. Otherwise, Georgian Dream and the Georgian oligarch Dzebisashvili will be simply pushing their agenda, and this is definitely not a Georgian agenda. This is rather a Russian agenda in Georgia.
Okay, so why then should the incumbent party negotiate? They are claiming they won a majority of the vote in the general election. I know that's disputed. You say that's just not true, that it's based on vote rigging and so on, but they dispute that. What's going to make them come to the table and negotiate?
Obviously, the mood of the general populace in Georgia is definitely not in favor of Georgian Dream. There is this, and not for nothing, there's this mass protests for the moment in Georgia. Please keep in mind that generally the political opposition has little popularity in Georgia in general due to thousands of reasons. But it was enough that the Georgian Dream rigged the election that, the protesters, without having a coherent political leadership, they just responded to the call of protest and went to the street in mass. You have almost, I think today we had like 60 to 70,000 protesters just simply going on the street. They don't have any particular party in favor, but they're showing that they're protesting, and the protest will going on.
Yeah.
When there's this kind of, this is this atmosphere in Tbilisi, and this is the capital of Georgia, where people routinely when they finish their job, they go and, protest on these streets. And this is not typically what Georgian Dream is capable of doing. It
Yes.
really needs days of preparation, just to bring people outside of Tbilisi, not in Tbilisi, but outside of Tbilisi from, remote regions, hundreds, and thousands of minibuses to bring all the people to Tbilisi and just to show some masquerade showing that they have popularity in masses.
Yes.
But that's not true. That's a fake picture. The real picture is that the overwhelming majority of Georgian population has voted against Georgian Dream, but Georgian Dream is simply not willing to acknowledge it.
I mean, literally, when you're speaking, I've been looking at some pictures coming in live from Tbilisi. I can see quite a large number of police on the streets outside the parliament building. They're decked out in riot gear. We'll see how that protest develops. Although the government, the incumbent party, they are and have shown themselves to be more than capable of taking pretty repressive action when it comes to opponents, haven't they? They act and bring in laws pretty much right out of the Russian playbook.
That's true. They can do it. They have shown that they have this capacity and willingness to pursue that way. The point is that we have a little bit different situation for the moment. While protesting against the Russian law, we knew exactly that this is just a phase on the long path towards the final result. Final result will be then the parliamentary election in October. And we knew that the protest against the Russian law was just a part of the entire process of protests against the Georgian Dream, resulting in the victory in the parliamentary elections. Now there is no other chance remain. So this is, to say it simply, the final stance of the Georgian population and Georgian nation on their path of democratic development and the European future. If on this path the nation and the people will fail, there will be no other chance for Georgia. Yeah. This is why people clearly understand it, and the mood is that they will continue to protest unless the result will be achieved.
You're hoping, I think, for outside pressure on the incumbent party, Georgia Dream. No doubt looking for sanctions, perhaps from other European countries. Is that very likely, though, do you think?
I think there is a little bit different understanding how the external pressure must look like. We think sanctions are important, but they're not enough. They will not suffice because let's call it by names, because the Russian nature of the incumbent regime, for them, sanctions don't matter. I mean, it's really painful, but it's not the critical, for them. The most important thing for the incumbent regime is whether the West will understand, that Georgia is just a component of the global conflict between authoritarian, regimes against the Western democracies. So Georgia is now this kind of a front line, a segment of the global front line when the totalitarian regimes try to turn country into a kind of proxy authoritarian place. We don't want it. We want to become a part of the European Union. We want to become a part of the democratic Western type of nations. And this is our last chance to fight and to win. So in this fight, definitely sanctions matter, but we need much more support from the West, and having this clear understanding that, expressing deepest concern will not suffice, for sure.
Okay, Shalva, let's keep in touch on this situation as it develops. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Dr. Shalva Dzebisashvili there, who's a professor of political science at Georgia University in Tbilisi.